You know what's the most annoying and the most frustrating thing when you break up with someone? It's the moment when you find out or even see them doing all those things you wanted them to do when they were with you with another freaking person. I had to bite my tongue there. Excuse moi. Now? Oh, now? Now you're gonna be better? What about all my blood, sweat, and tears? Everything I poured into this relationship and poured into you. Was I not deserving of having the same treatment? Or the most typical one, I guess. You try to inspire your partner to do something for themselves, to maybe be more ambitious, to maybe, I don't know, open their own business, especially if you see that they have certain talents or certain knowledge around things and they're struggling financially, right? You're like, why don't you do this thing? And it's always the same old answer. That's stupid. Those are fairy tales. In the real world, things are not easy like that. And boom, they get with another person and, oh, well, look at you, Mr. Entrepreneur. I get it. You probably get it. And also, Miranda gets it. But you know how we do it here? We narrate, we analyze, we often judge, and we often act like we know better and we would do better. Hopefully. Miranda and Steve are broken up, okay? Miranda was done with being the mama, and she was like, Steve, this is not going to work out. I keep on giving in this relationship. I keep on trying to make it work, but it seems like I'm putting in the 80% and you're bringing in the fun. It ain't enough. But there is a little bit of a pickle. Steve has no place to go. When they started dating, not even a week into the dating, Steve already, let go of his apartment and he moved in with Miranda. And now he's like, you're my ex, but this couch, I'm still in relationship with him. With it, genders can be confusing. He has no place to go and he needs to crash at Miranda's for a little bit longer before he gets his shit together. Which also made me think, every time the last time when he stormed out, when Miranda was basically breaking up with him,
Steve,
where did Steve go? He has no place. So what was that fuss all about? Did he go out and then he came back and was like, knock, knock? Awkward. Now, another thing that becomes very awkward because he stays at Miranda's even though they've broken up is the morning routine. Is the morning play of, I need to be quiet and I need to sneak out before he wakes up because this is weird. And people, if there is one thing you do not mess with, if there's one thing that is messing with my morning routine. Okay. If you mess with my coffee, I might just kill you. Miranda doesn't really show it, but I know. I can sense how struggling this is for her. And I try to ignore that she's an actor. Maybe you would expect Miranda to be strong with Steve and say, Stevie, little boy. No, that's rude. You need to go out. But the thing is that, this is her ex. She still shares some love with him. And she has a heart. If he has no place to go, of course she's going to let him crash at her place. And somehow Steve doesn't have any friends or family. So, At this point, it's already been 3 weeks.
Hey, I'm sorry it's taken me so long to find a place. I got a lead on one, though.
Look, I'm going to be honest. If I pair together that you're messing up with my morning routine, which is a big no-no, if for the next 3 weeks, also my home is not anymore a comfortable place for me, and it's almost like I need to, wake up earlier in the morning to go earlier to work, that's another line. Because my ex is staying at my place and my place is not anymore the cozy, comfortable, safe place that it used to be, that's a problem. That's a big problem. Isn't it? And it doesn't look in any way, shape, or form that Steve is actually putting any effort to move out. Because in 3 weeks, he just informs Miranda that he actually has an apartment viewing. Now, maybe that's the situation in New York. I do not know. But if that's not the case, then it's a little bit sus.
Hey, do you... Never mind.
What?
No, I was gonna ask if you want to go and look at it with me, but that's weird, right?
Yes, it is weird. What do you mean? I honestly do not understand why would Steve ask Miranda to join her. Like, if I was Steve and I'm crashing at my ex's place, and I would imagine that I would want to leave that place. I wouldn't be like, hey, do you want to come with me to check? I would be like, no, I'm solving this on my own. I'm trying to get out as soon as possible. Pair with that the reason why they broke up was because Miranda felt like she was mothering Steve a little bit too much, that Steve was leaning on her a little bit too much. Imagine having the audacity to then ask again this person to go with you to check out an apartment. It's almost like Steve does not compute what is happening, or the writers don't compute what's happening, or that's exactly what they want to show us. Yes, I know these are characters. Sometimes I forget. So it is a little bit strange. Now, people, there are theories. There always are. But before we get to that,
I don't know. I guess we could do that.
if I was Miranda, I would be like, yeah, I think you can do it on your own. Okay? Maybe that's the first step to doing things on your own. You can do it. Miranda is nicer than me, I guess, and let me know if she's also nicer than you, or if you would be even nicer than Miranda and you would even cook for him. I mean, the man needs to eat, huh? You know, when you break up with someone, at least that's my experience, there is this period of you almost lying to yourself or blindsiding or dissociating by being still friends, almost looking at the situation, you know what? We were not compatible. Things were bad for some time, let's say. And this is just, it's okay. It doesn't mean I have any resentment towards this person or anything. And usually it happens at the beginning. You're almost like justifying or trying to be the bigger person. And then you go into the other stages and you're like, fuck that. And then you stabilize again. I think that's the moment when these things kind of happen and these things slide. You know, him asking for her to go, to take time out of her day, out of whatever she's doing, to go with him to check on an apartment. If you're in another phase of breaking up, I don't think that would fly. Let me talk about the apartment viewing. The place is challenging, okay? It's rough, okay? It is rough. And Miranda does not know what to think about this. Steve is the typical Steve.
Okay, I'll take it.
Oh, poor me, victim, but secretly hoping that you're gonna save me.
You can't live here.
What? It's not that bad.
If I was Miranda, I would be like, yeah, it is a little bit rough, but maybe just temporary, you know, until you find something better. But again, Miranda is better. Miranda is the Mother Teresa. And I shouldn't say that because Mother Teresa was apparently not that great. Oh, you didn't know about it? Best of luck on the journey in the rabbit hole of the dark side of Mother Teresa. It's quite entertaining. I mean, educational. Which one is it? Entertainment is for education. Why did I think of Jerry Springer right now? And this is where the theories enter the room. You see, people out there are a little bit skeptical. Why would he show Miranda a place like that? He must have known that this is not the, most suitable living situation. So why would he bring her on? Well, Steve did it on purpose. Oh yeah, Biss. Steve knows Miranda. He knows that Miranda would never allow him to live in a place like that. I mean, at the end of the day, she did love the man at some point, didn't she? How could she let him stay there? So it was all a plan. It was all Damn, but Steve is not that smart. Well, either way, according to the fans of the show, this was all done on purpose because he knew that, Miranda is going to let him crash at a nicer place. And also, he won't have to pay for it because Miranda is not asking him to pay for the rent. Miranda did a lot of mistakes, didn't she? I would at least rent. Okay, then help me pay for the bills if you're going to stay here. Now, the other theory is not a theory and could be just that, this is the situation. It sucks. Steve didn't know that this is how the place is going to look like. And it just sucks that also Miranda was there to witness it because Miranda obviously says, we'll find a better place, right? I'll help you look.
There's got to be a better place. I'll help you look.
Again, no one seems to remember that was the reason why they broke up. But some of us might have understanding for Miranda, some of us don't. And Carrie falls into that basket as well. Carrie is also confused. Why is she still, let's say, hosting Steve? Why is she letting him crash at her place?
Guilt?
The census is Miranda doesn't really want to let go. She might still have some hopes that they will rekindle their relationship. And that's why she's not so harsh on him to kick him out, basically, or on him to find his own place. And I'm going to be honest, I do not buy that. I genuinely, even though the writers might have wanted it to go that way, it really does not make sense. I just think that Miranda is, as she's proven many times, she is actually a very genuine and loving and supportive person. That's just who she is, despite, having this exterior potentially. She's actually very sweet. And she wouldn't just let someone suffer. Miranda tells Carrie that it's not that simple.
My head tells me it's time for him to leave, but the idea of him moving to a basement apartment on the corner of Depressing and West Shit Street breaks my heart.
Mary, the heart versus the head dilemma. By the way, I watched the documentary on Netflix about the guy, I don't remember his name, that is trying to reverse aging. And he said a very interesting thing. He said that you cannot trust your mind, but you can trust your body. AKA, if you want to be disciplined, it's about you doing the action rather than relying on your mind to make you do that action. Because today the mind is stimulated so much with so many things, so much information, that you can't really rely that it's doing what's the best for you. And that was quite interesting to me. What do you think about that? It has nothing to do with this story, but it just popped into my mind and I wanted to understand, what does the public say? When it comes to Miranda and Steve, we can look at the situation from two perspectives. When it comes to, the heart versus the mind thing or the head thing. The first perspective is that Steve is shitty and he is using Miranda, right? He is just playing like this victim or this poor him because that's how he can still crash at Miranda's place and doesn't have to worry about, paying rent or bills or anything. Clearly, in this case, Miranda is playing into it by following her heart, by not taking care of herself and her needs and her boundaries, but relying on empathy and on sympathy towards Steve. She's basically spitting into her own bowl type of thing, right? He's using her and she's allowing it. The second perspective is that Steve is actually struggling to stand up for himself, to take care of himself, especially with the loss of the relationship with Miranda. Now it potentially makes him feel even more like incapable, like a moron, like a loser. And that feeds even more into this cycle that he doesn't do things for himself. He doesn't show up for himself. I mean, how can we say that Steve is actually enjoying crashing at Miranda's place in the apartment of the person who told you that, this relationship cannot work because you're not stepping up, and now, boom, you're again just crashing at her place, being almost at her mercy. That has to suck. So it might be that he actually has insecurities about actually doing things for himself. Breakups in general are tough. They can be mentally and energy draining. So it could be that it impacts Steve's motivation to actually go out and find an apartment, find a place for himself. It could also be that he actually has problems finding an apartment. So him asking Miranda to go with him is because that deep down, he truly believes he cannot do it on his own. He's even willing to stay at a shitty place, but Miranda is offering something better, and why not, right? It gives them a bit more time, and that always feels good. But the same way in the first example where we say that Steve is using her and she should follow her head and her heart is betraying her, it could be also in this case. The reality in this case is that Steve always relied on Miranda for the big responsible things. That's why the relationship ended. So even if he's struggling right now with standing up for himself, his insecurities getting the best of him, Miranda allowing him to take some time, Miranda offering support, Miranda following her heart instead of her head, is again damaging. Now it's damaging to both of them, while the first one was only damaging to her. Sometimes, people, you need to cut the umbilical cord and let the child survive without those fluids coming through. Is that what's happening? And yes, this reference makes me a little bit dizzy too, okay? But it felt right. Obviously, it depends on multiple factors and situations, but if you find yourself in a situation like Miranda and Steve, what I would do to, let's say, just protect myself, to make sure that I am showing for myself, if nothing else, is set a clear date. I would be like, Steve, you can stay here, but until this date. After that, you will just need to leave because, that's just the best thing for both of us. And even if you help this person to find their own place, that could also be seen as, well, I'm helping you again, like this is again on me. It does not matter as long as you have a set deadline, because let's just get him out of here, or let's just get her out of here and preserve my sanity. Like I said, 3 weeks tiptoeing around my freaking apartment that I paid and I worked hard to have. Honestly, I have no idea how that feels. I mean, no. Now, if we look at Steve from two different perspectives, what we can do is also look at Miranda from another side. I mean, who's to say that Miranda does not like being someone who Steve relies on to a certain point, because she did end the relationship because it was getting too much. But just maybe in a sense, this way of being needed. Maybe. I find it hard to believe, but we need to play the devil's advocate to be fair. And I'm saying that because Miranda is actually going to be pushed to do what's right by her head and not her heart. Or maybe both. Maybe that's why she did it. You see, she's at home, Steve is working, which luckily they at least have different schedules, and there is a message on the answering machine.
Hi, if this is Steve's number, this is Myra.
It's a woman who is inviting Steve on a date. Yes, Biss, you heard me right. A woman is calling Miranda's number to invite Miranda's ex out. That's what you sign up for when you let your exes live at your place. That's how I see it. Miranda is shook it, and it makes perfect sense. Of course, there's the voice that says, what? But you broke up, so you continue to live your life the way you want to live it, right? Steve is single. He can do whatever he wants. And that can be totally okay. But pair that with the fact that Miranda herself is not really properly, potentially mourning the end of the relationship. I mean, her safe space is occupied by the ex. They broke up because she had to take care of a lot of things, because Steve was acting or pushing her more and more. I mean, the way they started dating, it was all about pushing her. And when she finally cut the cord is kind of still sticking a little bit. Oh, this is disgusting. So from her perspective, she is helping this man to get on his feet. She's sacrificing her well-being, right? And yet, it seems like Steve is open for the dating scene, right? How effed up is that? Imagine, put yourself in Miranda's position. Like, even if Steve did not initiate this woman asking him out, why would Miranda need to go through this also? Why does she now need to get another burden on her shoulder when the man she's helping is already back on the market, living his life in her apartment? If it was me, this would be the moment where I would heavily lean on the side, okay, he needs to go out. This is way too soon. I'm giving myself way too much. And I don't need this burden also. I need my time to recover. And I don't need to recover with having on my shoulder or literally on my phone that he's dating other people or interacting with other people. And another layer on that is the realization or the reality of how the society works and the dating scene works. I mean, Steve, not even having his own place, crashing at his ex's place, not being financially stable is, wow. The second he's single, he is already having women come after him. While for her, or for women in general, the situation is quite the opposite. The more successful you are, the more difficult it is to find a man.
A 34-year-old guy with no money and no place to live because he's single, he's a catch. But a 34-year-old woman with a job and a great home because she's single is considered tragic.
So this became the first push in the direction of listen to your head. Do what is good for you. But the second push came in the middle of the night. It is 4 a.m. Miranda is trying to sleep, but there is someone who is making the noise. And it ain't Steve. Don't be pervert, okay? He's not having sex in another room. I can imagine that. It is Steve's puppy. Yes, biz, it's the puppy. Steve pushed Miranda to get together with Steve, which Miranda didn't want because she would have to take care of him. And Steve promised that that's not going to happen. Then it happened. Miranda was the one taking care of the pup. And that kind of triggered the whole ending the relationship. So this pup, this little poor innocent pup, is again asking Miranda to take care of him. He's again in the fire in between, trying to get some water. Miranda is upset. She picks up the puppy. She goes towards the living room where Steve was supposed to be sleeping. And would you look at that? Steve didn't even come to her place or home. He stayed out all night. Now people, you are telling me you have a dog, a pet. You're crashing at someone's place. And let's not even say it's your ex, okay? It's a friend. And you have the audacity to go out the whole night, not informing this person, not asking them if they can care of the puppy, but you're just like, don't care. I'm out and, the puppy will survive somehow. And also Miranda will take care of him. No problem. The audacity of this man is unhinged. And this was the final push where Miranda understood that Steve needs to move out.
Morning.
Morning. I took the dog out already.
Thanks.
There's coffee and I circled a bunch of apartments in the Village Voice that sound good.
I should probably get out of here today.
Now, again, as I said before, there is this senses of, Miranda realized that it's really over between the two of them. That's why, she said, okay, now you really need to move out. But I think, I don't really see that happening, even though Carrie says it as an over voice, but we both know how Carrie sometimes doesn't think clearly. I personally believe that was the moment when she understood that she keeps on giving to this man. And it's basically the same situation as it was before. He does not respect it and he's always taking more and more. So she said, sayonara, Stevie. Also, it's implied that Steve went out on a date, right? Now imagine you not even owning your own place or you're not even having a place to stay, and yet you do have an energy to date other people. What's up with that? It's kind of interesting though how Steve, when he came home in the morning, Like he was totally, ready to move out of Miranda's place. So there was no more, the need to stay, to find a place. Now he was totally ready, which does make me think, is it because the theories were actually correct and Steve found another person he can crash that? I mean, isn't it confusing? Like all of this makes me believe that Steve was using Miranda until he found another person where he can go. Now, if I take in consideration that this is also a TV show, it feels that maybe writing just went off the road, okay? It was just confusing. Or they were hinting at Steve not actually being the best partner, even though a lot of the times, the fans understood that how he is perfect, right? When they say goodbye, they both are very sad. They both have teary eyes. And it almost feels like this is a second breakup.
Steve, never mind.
What?
I was gonna say keep in touch, but that's weird, right? That would be weird.
I guess we could do that.
And that's why you cut the cord when you break up, okay? You don't need to go through the second phase again. The first one is struggle enough. And yes, maybe I have a dark heart, but she's gonna get slapped again. She's gonna be shown again how, well, when Steve is with her, he just leans back. He's just like this whiny kid. But the second he gets into another relationship, suddenly he is showing up for himself. Suddenly he is business. So after Steve finally moved out and they started the process, or Miranda started the process of getting over Steve or the breakup and potentially stepping back into the dating scene, she was again hit with not so promising partners or potential.
Are you having phone sex with other people? I'm a lawyer. I'm a stewardess.
Everything kind of makes her feel that she is a bit stuck, a bit in a slump. She's still in the phase, I just broke up. And that is not going really well. And the last attempt at everything is just to go off sex.
I've made the conscious decision not to have sex until conditions improve.
Yes, Miranda decided to be celibate. So one day, she's getting her coffee at a bar. She steps out and well.
Miranda?
It is Steve. Steve is ecstatic because Steve is finally making the step Miranda encouraged him to do for so long.
I'm finally doing it. I'm opening up my own bar.
Yes, Biss. Steve finally decided to open a bar, which he never thought of doing when he was with Miranda. And not only that, he's actually in a new relationship. Now, let's get one thing straight. It's not like Miranda wanted Steve to open a bar. She didn't really care that he is a bartender, as long as he's happy. But the challenge was that Steve wasn't really happy. Steve was struggling financially and with having stability, so Miranda encouraged him to maybe do something more, so he could feel better in his skin. So a part of her right now feels very happy for him.
Wow! Steve, you're kidding?
On the other hand, she wants to smack him. She doesn't, but she does feel a little bit upset that he's doing all these moves right now, and who's gonna reap the benefits?
It was my idea. I'm the one who told him he should open his own bar in the first place. But do I get any credit?
I'm guessing not, no.
No, of course not. It's infuriating.
Despite wanting to be happy, it does make her feel a certain way. And I would say that she's not the only one who feels the same way. Seeing your ex-partner being everything that you wanted them to be, but not with you. Now, if you're on the receiving side, if you are the new person who gets all those benefits, of course you're like, thank God. Thank God you went through shit, you learned your thing, and now you are better. And when I come in, I don't need to put any work in, right? Kinda, let's say. It's easy to look at things positively when you are the one reaping the benefits. But when you're in a position like Miranda, well, the question is, why do we get a little bit annoyed? Why are we like this? The first thing I would say is a very common approach to relationships and dating. When you know there are problems, but you also convince yourself that these things wouldn't be a problem and the relationship would actually be good if only fill the blank. If only they wouldn't hang out with their friends so much. If only they would stop playing video games all the time and actually want to spend time with me. If only they wouldn't drink. We can go into more darker sides. If only they could manage their anger. If only they would feel secure in themselves and not threatened by my success. Look, I've heard people saying this person is so perfect, if only. This is the only thing. Almost neglecting that only thing is usually quite big. It's usually a huge fundamental problem. So for Miranda, in this situation, if her experience is that Steve felt insecure about her success, that Steve felt insecure about his financial situation, she might have thought that the relationship would be good if Steve would be more ambitious or if Steve would show up for himself. And because he does it now, it's almost like you lost on that. And your narrative of unfinished potential got destroyed, got exposed for the lie that it is. Now, this then turns into the, let's say, second layer, maybe even a standalone reason, but it's the trigger of your own self-doubt, right? If you see a person doing better after you, or they never did the things you wanted them to do in your relationship, but now they're doing it for another person, it almost makes you ask yourself, why not me? Was I not good enough? Didn't I deserve to be treated better also? Or in Miranda's case, was I not worth for him to change? Sometimes we attach worth to, or self-worth to, how much the other person will grow or change for this relationship to work better, right? But we fail to realize that everyone has their own timing. Someone might want to change, but if they're not in mental space to do it, they won't change. Doesn't matter how much they love you. So we need to learn how to separate that. My worth has nothing to do with how willing are you to change for us, because it does depend on the other person. I mean, how many times people say you cannot make your partner happy? Like they need to do it for themselves. And that's on their own process and their own timing. And look, sometimes the reality is that people just receive the wake-up call when the relationship actually ends. I personally believe that the change can happen easier with a new person because there are new boundaries to be set, new ways of how you treat the other person, how you communicate, which can be much more challenging with someone with whom you already cross those boundaries. You already establish a certain way of treating them or of looking at them. So if I would be in that situation, I wouldn't see it as, oh, they didn't do it for me. I would say, unfortunately, neither of us actually was able to establish certain boundaries or make sure that we treat each other well, and it allowed for the relationship to fall apart. So doing it with another person, yes, makes sense. Now they can, from the start, establish, both of them, boundaries that will help them have a better relationship. So based on that, first of all, 100% it is valid to feel a sense of unease, to maybe feel a little bit jealous, maybe even angry, maybe like you've been played, right? Things are not fair, but it should be just a sense of acknowledging your feelings, okay? Don't lie to yourself. Yes, I feel this way and it sucks. But then, you do the next step. Maybe you take out a journal. Maybe you write a little bit. Maybe you watch one of these videos and you're like, oh, that makes total sense. Or you're like, what is this bitch talking about? We're different people. Why am I feeling this way? Is this a truth or is this a lie? And look at it as objectively as possible. And like I said, remember these things. Timing is personal. How the relationship started to develop, how both of you played a role, also plays a role in how a person is growing or not growing. And it does not mean if a person is suddenly now better for themselves or even for the other partner, that is intentional. It's just a process. It's a way of life. The same way we learn things, you yourself grew in certain ways because of the relationship, so did the other person. So why would we then almost resent that? We can just look at the relationship as the experience that was good for both of us to do better in our lives or for ourselves, or to learn how we would do better next time. And sometimes, if you really, really need it, if you need to feel that there was a purpose to all of your blood, sweat, and tears, think about how you supported another woman or another person in this case. How we stood up for each other. Women supporting women. She has a better man now.
Do you ever think that you might still have feelings for Steve?
No. God, no. Why?
The answer is clear. She has no feelings for Steve. But what stings is the sense of how her life is the same while Steve is growing, is changing, almost improving.
I'm trying to be happy for him. He's got his own bar, his own life, his own Jessica. And I'm still here. You know? In the same apartment, doing the same job, living the same life.
And that's what makes her feel almost bad about herself. That could even play into her feeling even more like she was the bad guy in the relationship. You see, he's actually doing better without me. If you think about it, what changes could have Miranda made when it comes to the objective side of her life? Should she change the job? Should she change the apartment? I mean, all of that was working for her. It was Steve who actually needed to do quite big steps for him to be happy and secure with his life. But sometimes we fail to realize that. We fail to realize that the starting point was a little bit different. And if Miranda is already at a certain level, it's difficult for her to actually make a significant change. So when Steve, at the grand opening of the bar, actually thanks Miranda and acknowledges that she was the one who encouraged him to open a new bar, and she was the one who always supported him in this, she actually feels better. She feels good. And I'd say she feels good because it's an acknowledgement that she was not the bad guy, that they were just in different paths in life. We also know that Miranda struggled for a long time, that she's the bad one in the relationship. There was a scene where she got a fight with Carrie, which we talked in the Carrie's video, and Carrie was accusing her of being someone who just gives up on people when they don't do what she expects them to do. And that was something that she was doubting herself. She even asked Steve about it at that time.
My judgmental stuff. How bad was it? Steve, I didn't throw you away, did I?
No.
Was she the problem in the relationship? And he reassured her it wasn't the only problem. And now when he acknowledges her encouragements, that makes her feel, or gives her again the reassurance that she was not the only problem in the relationship. She inspired Steve in some way, and he's actually doing what's good for him. And I think that could be also one of the big things why we feel resentment towards our ex-partners treating other people better or doing better in their life. It's because, in a way, we might feel that we were just not a good partner and we didn't allow them that. But let me know your thoughts on this whole situation. Maybe if you were in the same situation, how it made you feel. And, as always, trust your individuality.